All right, welcome back. Episode 199 of Chaotically Intolerant. New setup for me. It's been crazy. We did not do an episode last week. That was kind of unplanned, but hey, life gets busy. We're going to talk a little March Madness at the top of the show, and then we're going to cover the National League. We're going to preview the National League for the 2025 MLB season. Before we do that, make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Go check out the guys at Spring Hill Sports. They're doing the Cycle podcast where they talk baseball, 4 topics, 20-something minutes. They get it out to you real quick. So go check them out. Go check out Draft America. Mike Seth, obviously my co-host here. He's running that over there. He does some good articles. Check that out. And let's go. All right, Mike. Let's jump into some March Madness. It's March. It's definitely mad. I have been out of the loop. I gotta say, I've been completely out of the loop on March Madness this year. I feel a little guilty. I'm usually kind of in it. I know Florida escaped UConn. That's pretty much the only big thing I know. And there was another Amir Khan. Explain to me Amir Khan. I don't know what's going on with that guy.
Yeah, I don't know how the manager becomes the overnight sensation, but McNeese won a game. That was exciting. They beat Clemson pretty handily, but then went the other way on them against Purdue. Yeah, I mean, it's been pretty chalky. The only double-digit seed in the Sweet 16 is a 10, and that's Arkansas, and that's a coach, John Calipari, who has led, 3 teams already to the Elite Eight or Final Four. I don't know. He's had a hell of a ride. There's no true Cinderella left. I mean, BYU is a 6. Ole Miss is a 6. I mean, Ole Miss is, we know them for football. I think BYU would be the biggest kind of Cinderella story if there is one. A lot of blue bloods. You got Duke, Kentucky, Michigan State, Florida. Suddenly, Alabama is becoming a basketball school. Auburn, Houston, who made the Final Four a few years ago. It's been a fun tournament. Maryland, I'm proud to say as a Maryland fan that they have the only buzzer beater win of the tournament. It's ironic because their last 4 losses this season have all basically been buzzer beaters, so they were due for one. I guess the Terps are a little bit of a Cinderella. I mean, it's been a long time since they've made any serious noise in the tournament. I mean, it's been 9 years since they made it to the Sweet 16, so having fun watching them. It's nice to see UConn get knocked out after back-to-back champions. Ironic that they would get knocked out by the previous team that won back-to-back. Had they won, they would have faced Maryland. Maryland was the last team to beat UConn at any point in the tournament in 2022. So it's been fun. I always say I think March Madness is the best sporting event in the world, period. I love it. I think it's just, you have these action-packed 4 days. It's exhausting. It's, noon to midnight. It's 12 hours of college basketball and brackets and betting and all that stuff. You have 4 days, and then you get 3 days off, and then it's another 4 days, and then it all comes down to the Final Four games. Just hate that the national championship game is played at 9:15 on a Monday night. I don't know why they do that. Kind of an odd time for people to go out and celebrate and watch the game, on a Monday
College
night.
Does not get it right. Oh. They got to figure something out. They need to hire new schedule makers or something, because we did this with the college football national title game. Was that the least watched national title game of all time? Or it was close to it. It did not seem like anyone cared in comparison to the past years. And that was the biggest college football playoff ever. That was the first one. It was the 12-teamer, which I think a lot of people, kind of agree. It was a little too big. But I am excited. I'm actually going to be able to sit down on Thursday and watch. That's getting me excited. I'm going to be able to sit down and just enjoy college basketball. I skipped the first and second round, which some people, I've heard some people say that it's kind of worth skipping the first and second round, but I don't really believe that. I think it sucks if you miss the first and second round, because you get crazy shit like Amir Khan. He's the manager and he's the biggest star on the team, and he's wearing an Aura jumpsuit. What are we doing here? And that is the great part about those first 2 rounds. But I'm really excited for the Sweet 16, man. I actually get to watch it, and that's pretty damn cool.
Yeah, I would say the first 2 rounds are the absolute best. That's when the most madness happens. That's when, Cinderella is. Obviously, when you get to weekend number 2, you're talking about the bigger teams, and then, of course, by the Final Four. But, there's been a great run of teams in the Final Four recently. High seeds we've had in the last few years alone, we had an 11 last year. We had a 9 the year before that. We had an 8, although it was North Carolina. UCLA was an 11 in 2021. Loyola Chicago, that incredible run in 2018 as an 11 seed. There's always usually a Cinderella that goes deep in the dance. Fun fact, only one time since the tournament field expanded in 1985 to 64 teams, only one time has it ever been all 4 1 seeds in the Final Four, and that was 2008. So the likelihood of that, I don't know, not great, but those 4 teams are all, betting-wise, the heaviest favorites in college basketball. Duke, Florida, Auburn, Houston. Kind of is a little bit of a gap there before you start getting into like Tennessee, Alabama, Michigan State. I'm going to throw out one other thing that I can't stand, that the Tokyo series, the baseball season opened before March Madness began.
Yes. Thank you.
Awful. That's like inexcusable. It's blasphemous. That's like worse than the NFL trying to go to, 18 games and playing on President's Weekend, to have baseball season start. And of course, is it just going to be the Dodgers every year now in the Tokyo Series? They're going to be 2-0 before anyone else takes the field.
Is that has to be some sort of like mental advantage, right? Can we say that? Like there's some sort of crazy mental advantage going into the season. You're already 2-0, which maybe you'll be 1-1, whatever. You're a little warmer than all the other teams going into the season. And we've seen teams who, their season can be defined by the beginning, by how they get started. In 2019, that Red Sox team coming off the World Series, they started on the West Coast for the first 3 weeks, and they did horrible. And they were mediocre at best all year. So I agree with you. I hate the Tokyo Series. I love the exposure that it brings to the game and other countries, but doing it in the middle of spring training is ridiculous. It is absolutely ridiculous to me.
Wow, it's bad. Last year the Dodgers and Padres split the 2 games, but it just feels like it's overreach a little bit, because then you come back to spring training. It'd be one thing if you played in London maybe a couple days before the season, fine, just give them a 2 or 3 day head start. But you're going, what was it, the 18th and you're talking about 8 days right between that second game and then the start of the season. And yes, you're right, the start matters. The 2018 Red Sox started 17-2. The 2013 Red Sox started 20-8. It does matter how you start. I'm not saying that the very first series is always the greatest indicator, but
no, not at all.
And it was a big deal, I think, last year for the Padres that they won that second game, because it kind of established the tone for them to go neck and neck all year with the Dodgers. But the Cubs were one of those teams that I kind of had some high hopes for. Now, granted, it's hard to judge 2 games against the best team in maybe Major League history, but it's kind of deflating. Like, they come back, it's they're already 0-2 a week before anyone else has lost the game.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I think there is something to be said for this. Japan has their own baseball league that is incredibly popular over there. They produce tons of major league level talent that come over here and have massive impacts on the teams that they sign with. So it's not like they're going to London where there's no real baseball league. Is there a Great Britain baseball league? I'm sure there is. I'm sure there is some sort of professional, but it's not like Japan. Japan's baseball league is, it's right there. Would you say talent level is better than AAA baseball? I would say so.
Well, probably
Double
just
A?
because you have some, world-class stars. I would say the average player in Japan is not nearly, I don't know about nearly.
Not the average. I would not the average, but
mean,
just overall. Yeah.
Yeah, because you have obviously players like Otani, Yamamoto, basically half the Dodgers roster. They all came from, Japan, Deki Matsui, Hideo Nomo. Those guys, they're great and they're superstars, Ichiro in the U.S., but I think overall they're still but they're better than AAA, I would say. They got to be better than AAA.
I would think so. And people show up for AAA. Look at the Woo Sox games in Worcester. They show up for those games. Let's jump into this thing though. I want to hear, I guess, this isn't fun to do a prediction, because I'm going to ask, who do you think is going to win the National League? And every reasonable answer is the Los Angeles Dodgers, right? Is there anyone out there that can compete at this point.
I mean, the symmetry is too perfect because the Dodgers are the new Yankees, and it would be fitting that exactly a quarter of a century later that they become the next team to repeat. Is there anyone close? I mean, I think the Padres took a step back this year. Unfortunately, they missed out on Sasaki. They lose Tanner Scott to the Dodgers. That's just a gut punch. I mean, and the whole thing that's going on with their ownership, as last year, to me, last year was their best shot. In my opinion, they were one game away from winning the World Series because had they gotten by the Dodgers, they would not have lost to the Mets. They would not have, I mean, probably not lost to the Mets. And I don't think they would have lost to certainly wouldn't have lost to the Yankees. So that, in a lot of ways, you just wonder, did the Padres hit their all-time pinnacle? They got guys like Yuli Gurriel and Jose Iglesias on their roster now and trying to recreate magic. The Mets, I mean, look, if Clay Holmes pitches like he did in the spring, maybe the Mets have a shot. I don't know. I mean, they've got excitement. They obviously caught lightning in a bottle last year, getting to the NLCS. The Phillies didn't do enough, in my opinion. They're still a really good team. I guess if there's one team, if I had to say right now, like who's a team that you would maybe trust, it would probably be the Braves more than the Mets, more than the Phillies, more than the Cubs. I don't see anyone in the NL Central, the Brewers. Arizona they always play the Dodgers tough, and they added Josh Naylor this year. They had a big bat. Of course, they lost Christian Walker. If they stay healthy, rotation-wise, Gallen and Kelly and Eduardo Rodriguez and Fott and but I would say Atlanta. I would say it has to, at least at the moment, even losing Max Fried, they get Spencer Strider back. Obviously, they get Acuna back. They had a lot of injuries last year. I feel like they would probably have the best shot.
Okay. Yeah. I would say Atlanta as well. I'm pretty confident in the Braves. I've been finding that if I had an NL team, it would be the Atlanta Braves. I don't know why. Maybe it's just they have the same colors as the Red Sox and they used to be the Boston Braves. But who would be your, I guess, sleeper coming out of the National League? Maybe Arizona. You said, you kind of mentioned them as they play the Dodgers real tough. Maybe Arizona. I don't know. Who's your sleeper?
Sleeper team in the NL? I would have thought the Cubs would have been a good pick because the last couple of years they've been kind of close in terms of, like a couple things had gone differently. 2 years ago, maybe they would have been what the Diamondbacks ended up being. I think everybody's, they're on to the Brewers, right? The Brewers aren't cute anymore. They're not fooling anybody. I don't think the Cardinals did enough. I want to believe in the Pirates because of Paul Skeens, and they've got a couple other nice arms. I mean, you never know. They're always the kind of team that plays well for half a season and makes you believe. Team that, I would love to say maybe the Nationals.
Really?
I just don't think they're there yet, though. They made a lot of strides. They've got some exciting young players. I mean, this to me kind of feels a little bit like they're on the same trajectory as they were in 2009 when Strasburg came up and they drafted Bryce Harper, and they're a very exciting team, right? James Wood and Dylan Cruz, and their pitching was pretty good last year. But the problem is their division. They've got the Braves, the Mets, and the Phillies. So, I don't know. I don't know because I don't know who. There's some teams in the National League you just know. I think the Reds are another team worth mentioning because Terry Francona, he seems to win wherever he goes. The Reds were actually supposed to be decent last year. They've got some good pitching. Again, in that division, why not? Why not? They'll have some new bats in the line. And they actually picked up Gavin Lux from the Dodgers. Talk about going from maybe the penthouse to the outhouse.
Yeah.
I don't know. They got Hunter Green, Nick Lodolo, Andrew Abbott. They actually have a decent rotation. So maybe the Reds. What about you?
Every like bone in my soul just wants to say the Pittsburgh Pirates because they do that thing where they make you believe for a little bit and then they just die out. Can you say the Mets are a sleeper? No, because they're like probably going to be third in their division, roughly.
I don't know. I don't know
because that's going to be a tough division. They're going to have to play probably in the back end of the wild card, right? They're probably going to sit 5, 6 maybe in the wild card. I would say the Mets, if you're going to the end of the season, because, well, I mean, we can say it all we want. They have Juan Soto, blah, blah, blah. But if they're the 5th or the 6th seed in the playoffs, no one's going to think about the Mets, right? I would say the Mets, as maybe cheap as that can be. I'd say the Mets is my sleeper because I feel like it's cheap, but if that's a third place baseball team in that division, that's a tough division to play in. They could be second. I mean, hell, they could play really well and win the division, but that's a really difficult division to compete in right now. You got Philly and Atlanta right ahead of them, and are the Mets better than Philly and Atlanta right now? I don't think so. Yeah, they were surprisingly quiet, especially for a Dombrowski-led team who's off, coming off a playoff loss and a World Series loss. Usually Dave Dombrowski, he spends until he gets it done, and we didn't really see much from them this offseason. So that was a little disappointing. But, I mean, maybe they'll finish second, but you still have to get through. I mean, Atlanta was hurt all year last year, and they still won 89 games. Imagine how they would be if they were healthy. But the Mets added Juan Soto. I mean, the $700 million man. Well, about as cheap as it can be, I'll say the Mets.
The Phillies are following this very, very interesting parallel that they followed when they actually won the World Series from 07 from 08 through 11. I don't know why, this always comes to my mind. So they won the World Series in 08 with 92 wins. The next year they won 93, lost the World Series. Next year they won 97, lost the NLCS. Next year, they won 102, lost the NLDS. They're going down the same path. Their regular seasons are getting better. 87 wins, lost World Series. 90 wins, lost NLCS. 95 wins, lost NLDS. So are they going to win 98 games this year and lose in the wild card round? I don't know. Or do they only win, 86 games and win the World Series? Just thought I'd throw that out there with the Phillies because last year was pretty deflating for them. They got to the World Series in 22, right? And they had a 3-2 lead on Arizona coming home for 6 and 7. I think there's a lot of pressure on the Phillies, maybe less because the Eagles won the Super Bowl. The Phillies have, their window is open again. I mean, they were really, really bad between 12 and 21. That was a decade of worthless baseball in Philadelphia. They kind of got close at the end of 21. Braves beat them the last week. Braves went on to win the World Series. This window's open now. And like you said, Dombrowski, we're not accustomed to seeing him kind of stand pat. I mean, they really didn't do much this offseason. I think Max Kepler was one of their big signings. If you call it that, they lose 2 guys out of their bullpen, Jeff Hoffman, Carlos Estevez. They whiffed on a lot of guys. They were, I don't know if they were ever in play for any of the Japanese guys, but they missed out on Santander, for example.
Yeah, that's a big bat you want to try and add there.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if they were ever in it for Soto, probably not, but just interesting because it feels like no one's at the Dodgers level, but there's still 1 or 2 guys from really completing that, being that team that they wanted.
Yeah, do we think, I mean, Dave Dombrowski also known for his deadline deals, aggressive deadline deals. Maybe he's just waiting for the deadline to see, hey, maybe this team isn't as good as we're expecting them to be. And he doesn't want to spend now, possibly waste money on a, not at quite as good roster as they had a couple years ago. Enough on the Phillies for now. I want to go through every team. We'll spend a couple minutes on every team. We're going to start in the East with the Atlanta Braves. I guess, what does this team have to do to take over the Dodgers? Because that's the goal right now.
They need 2022 and 2023 versions of a lot of their guys. I don't know if he's not going to be 40, 70, right? Last time he came back from an ACL, it took him a little time, at 22. Strider coming back from Tommy John. They need Ronaldo Lopez to be what he was last year when he was healthy. He was incredible last year. I mean, this was one of the most under-the-radar pitchers. They need Cy Young, Chris Sale. They need Matt Olson to hit for some average. They need a lot, but the talent is there. I think there's a lot of depth. Underrated general manager, Alex Anthopoulos. He's made some savvy moves here over the years, guys that you may have forgotten about. They actually just traded Ian Anderson, who was one of the World Series heroes, for Jose Suarez, kind of just an odd move. And they need to figure out, what their bullpen, who's going to be their big guys. I mean, Iglesias has been a pretty darn good closer and kind of quietly been one of the better closers in baseball. So, health, obviously, health and getting all those guys playing at their peak form. I think if all those guys have big years, I do think Atlanta can at least go toe to toe with the Dodgers.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Over to Philly, I guess. Let's talk. We talked a lot about Philly, but let's talk a little bit more about the Phillies. What do they need to do to compete and maybe jump over the Dodgers or even the Braves and just win the division?
Well, their strength needs to be their strength, which is their rotation. They've got Zach Wheeler, Aaron Nola. They picked up Jesus Luzardo, Christopher Sanchez, and they're going to be waiting on Ranger Suarez to come back. But I think the bullpen, they have to figure out what their bullpen is going to be. Can they trust them to close out games? That's been an area that I think has hurt them over the years. So we'll see. They did add Jordan Romano, who kind of was up and down with the Jays, but again, losing Jeff Hoffman, who was great, Carlos Estevez. They need to be able to count on their bullpen because the rotation is going to be good. They should figure to score runs. They got to be able to hold leads.
Mm-hmm. To New York, the Mets. Are we going to see this fantastic Mets team, or are they going to fizzle out and die again?
I don't know. I mean, the interesting thing is their rotation is there's like a lot of upside. Clay Holmes has been really, really good this spring. I mean, this guy was a disaster as the closer. Usually it's failed starter becomes great reliever. It's not often failed reliever. And not that, honestly, with Holmes, he blew a lot of saves, but he actually overall was pretty good in terms of his numbers. I think their rotation has to step up. These guys like Tyler McGill, Griffin Canning, who they picked up, David Peterson. It's not, and Kodai Senga, it's not like a star-studded group, and you throw Shamanaya in there. But to me, they're going to go as far as their starting pitching will allow.
Yeah, Juan Soto can only do so much.
He can only do so much.
He's not on the mound.
Yeah.
To Washington, do we see some magic here?
They're young. I think they're still a couple of years away, but I wouldn't count them out from being a team that kind of is in the mix, gives problems to the rest of the division. They got a lot of great performances last year from guys like Jake Irvin, Trevor Williams. They're hoping that Michael Soroka can bounce back. They've got young guys like Mitchell Parker, DJ Hurst, but Mackenzie Gore, if he becomes the ace, and then they can get, I don't know when Josiah Gray will be back because he's coming back from Tommy John. They have some exciting young players in their lineup. We know Dylan Cruz, as I said, James Wood, CJ Abrams, who was sent down to the minors, some disciplinary stuff, Keibert Ruiz, Luis Garcia, really underrated. There's talent there. There is talent, but their rotation, especially, that was such a big part of them kind of being a competent team last year. If that area falters, I think they're in trouble.
Yeah, I actually did like the addition of Paul DeJong. Real cheap deal. Good utility veteran guy to kind of be in there for that young core. Maybe hopefully mentor them a little bit, and maybe they'll be playing meaningful baseball in September. I think that's really important for a really young group like that. And then, sadly, we have to talk about them, the Miami Marlins. Is there anything for Marlins fans to be excited about?
I mean, hopefully some prospects. They may be without Connor.
A nice summer, right? Nice hot summer. That's what they're excited for.
Bad trade that the Orioles made, giving up Connor Norby to get Trevor Rogers. But they will get Sandy Alcantara back, right? He was a Cy Young Award winner 3 years ago, and he's been out. So I like Xavier Edwards. He steals a lot of bases, hit for the cycle last year. They're not gonna. I mean, if they can avoid 100 losses, that's great. I just hope they're able to find some exciting players that give fans a reason to come out.
This is a very, very young baseball team. I found this stat here. There is not a single member of the Marlins who has played over 500 career games. The closest is Jesus Sanchez with 446. So not good. Well, just very inexperienced, I guess. Let's go to the Central here. Let's go down, scroll down. The Milwaukee Brewers. Is there any reason to think this is not just the Central being and they're a real baseball team, or they're just don't even worry about them. Don't even think about the Brewers.
Well, they get rid of Devin Williams, but they were a blown save away from at least getting to the division series last year. They're always, I mean, kind of tired of the Brewers because it's like a lot of these teams refuse to just start over because
They've been doing this since like 17, right? When they got Yelich. I feel like because I know in 18 they were in the NLCS.
Right. Well, 2011 they were in the NLCS. You know, in the Ryan Braun, Prince Fielder years with Zach Greinke. Again, just maxed out. There's a lot of good young players there. They also picked up Nestor Cortez. That was part of that trade, right? For Devin Williams. Bullpen was a huge strength for them last year. They lose Devin Williams. How's that gonna come about this year? You know, Trevor McGill was pretty solid. He could fill in as a closer. Brian Hudson had a good year. I just don't know. I just don't see them. They do have the Bob Uecker storyline. Win one for Ueck, R.I.P. I don't know. I don't see the Brewers going far in the playoffs. They but if they find they can win the division, and they need to find a solution to the closer. They survived half the season last year without Devin Williams, so no reason they can't fill that void.
Yeah. The on pace for 0-162 Chicago Cubs. Is there a case for a Central Division championship? Or I mean, I guess there is, but what's the case for a playoff series win? I think that's a better kind of barometer for them.
Yeah, I mean, look, they haven't played any mortal teams yet, right? Like they lose to the Dodgers, it almost shouldn't count. You know, playing like an exhibition against the Japanese All-Star team or Japanese American All-Star team. I think the Cubs can win the division. I think that they're a good team. They just haven't been able to get that late push they needed to get into the postseason. It was interesting to see them kind of let Bellinger go. Are they going to be able to score enough runs? Matt Shaw, one of the favorites for Rookie of the Year. Shota Imanaga, Justin Steele, spearheading a pretty good rotation. I like. Of course, we didn't get to see him in the Tokyo series because they lost. But Porter Hodge, electric arm closer. I think the Cubs have a shot. Pete Crow Armstrong was hitting like 520 at one point in the spring. I don't think that's going to carry over, but Cubs can win the division. Anyone can win that division. I believe that. Even the Cardinals, even the Reds, even the Pirates, maybe. I mean, that's how little I think of the Central.
Yeah, I like the addition of Kyle Tucker. You get a really important guy coming in. You want to see them spend some money there, and get someone, a big bat to add to your lineup. And then you get Justin Turner, a real veteran guy. He's been around. I mean, the dude has been around a lot of places. I'm curious on the number of teams he's played on. But that's, again, like I said earlier, that veteran presence is really important for younger teams. And the Cubs are, I would say, more of a younger, up-and-coming team. So I think this is hopefully going to be a positive year for the Cubs. Our guy Serafino is going to write an article talking about how the Cubs sold their soul for the 2016 World Series. I'm really actually intrigued to read through that and see what he thinks. But let's go to Cincinnati. Tito Francona. He's in the dugout for Cincinnati. What's just give me the rundown on the Reds this year. I mean, what are the expectations here? I feel like they're always kind of that dark horse. They're either like really bad or we kind of say, oh, they're a dark horse to win the Central. But what's the deal here?
Well, the deal is they have a manager now that they think can get the most out of these guys. They've got some good young pitchers, but they have to stay healthy, right? Hunter Green's got to stay healthy. Nick Lodolo has to stay healthy. Nick Martinez has to deliver. Andrew Abbott had a great year. I don't know if they have enough offense. They just didn't score a lot of runs, right? And it's a shame because they have an electric Ellie De La Cruz. They'll get Encarnacion Strand back. I think anytime you're a decent team in the NL Central, the expectation should be to win the division. If they were in the NL West, you'd say, oh, a wild card would be amazing. But NL Central, you got a shot to win it. I think that the expectation should be high on this team because, as you said, they're always the dark horse that never gets it done.
Mm-hmm. Into St. Louis. This team looks pretty similar, I think, to what they were last year, at least offensively. Wilson Contreras moving to first, I think that's big for their lineup. And then they did retain Nolan Arenado. I think there was a thought about Nolan Arenado possibly being dealt. During spring training, the Red Sox were in on him at one point, but obviously Bregman went to Boston instead. So this is going to be a team that's looking for a lot of upside and a lot of guys. Are we going to see that upside in these guys, or are they going to struggle? And are we going to see a not very good Cardinals team again?
I haven't liked this Cardinals team in a long time. I think that 2015 was the beginning of the end for them when they won 100 games and went out in the first round to the Cubs. I don't know. Arenado's not the guy he used to be. They lose Goldschmidt. Not that he was having that great a year. There's so many random dudes on this team. It's weird to see the Cardinals as such a middling, mediocre baseball team. I don't see that changing this year. I really don't.
Yeah. And then Pittsburgh. I think there's a lot of really interesting things going on in Pittsburgh. You have the Paul Skeens thing where it's like they did like a reveal video for who's the opening day starter for the Pittsburgh Pirates. It's like, yeah, the guy who started the All-Star game last year is going to be the starter. It's not a question. It's not a debate. It's Paul Skeens. You have McCutchen DHing at the top of the lineup, who he's actually been kind of productive. I mean, for a 38-year-old, he's been somewhat productive over the last few years. You have Brian Reynolds. He's looking to have a real bounce back year. He's been, I don't think he's really lived up to the hype as much. I know he's dealt with some injuries in the past. And O'Neal Cruz, I mean, the guy is just an electric factory. He can run, he can jump, he can hit, he can do it all, but he strikes out a shit ton. So is there anything, I mean, I think there's a lot of interesting things about the Pirates, but we're not going to see a lot of success. Am I right about that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think the rest of the rotation's all that great anyway. Jared Jones he's decent. I think Mitch Keller might have been an all-star last year, if I'm not mistaken. But I don't know. The bullpen David Bednar really struggled last year as the closer. I don't know where the offense is going to come from either. I don't know. I mean, yes, they need Brian Reynolds to play well. They need O'Neal Cruz to stay healthy. Brian Hayes has not quite been the guy. I mean, they have guys like Isaiah Kiner Falefa and playoff mercenary, my friend and I call him Tommy Pham. He picked up. He's always on a playoff team.
He was their big addition this year, right? This offseason, that was like the big addition.
Basically on par with the Yamamoto or the Sasaki signing and Tanner Scott, and then the Pirates get Tommy Pham. So good deal. I don't think the Pirates are going to be anything better than maybe 500.
Typical Pirates, right?
Very.
Trying to see if Mitch Keller was an all-star last year, and I'm not going to find it. Let's go to the West. I mean, the LA Dodgers. We're going to start at the top. We're going to start with the team, the reigning World Series champs. We're going to start with Shohei. I don't even want to talk about him. There's nothing fun about this
I don't think there's anything to say. There's really, what can you say? If they don't win 100 games, that'll be the greatest gift to baseball. Or if they don't win the World Series, I think that'll be maybe the greatest gift since the New England going 18-0 and then losing the Super Bowl. I can't think of a better comparison, honestly, at that point. By the way, Mitch Keller all-star 2 years ago, even though his numbers were almost identical to last year. I knew he was an all-star at some point. It was 2 years ago.
Yeah, he was an all-star in 23 because it was pretty similar. That's crazy. Yeah, that's bizarre. Anyways, Dodgers, there's nothing to say. They just got better, right? They got better over the offseason.
They got a lot better. I think the potential upside of them winning the next couple World Series is that will probably finally force baseball to start to think about the economics, because they've gotten away with it over the years in a sense, where all these other teams have kind of gone on some random runs and had a few different teams win, and that the Dodgers only last year won their first real title in 36 years. I think it's been kind of easy to use that and say, well, no, it's not really with the payroll. But then when you start to get to a point where it really does feel like you're playing an all-star team every night, and then you have basically an entire country as a pipeline, to your success. I think it's unfortunate. Like I said, if they don't win the World Series, I mean, that is all the pressure, right? They have to win it. If they don't, it will go whoever beats them. Think about it. Even with some guys getting hurt last year, even if they get some guys hurt this year, they still have an all-star team. Anybody that beats them is going to really, really earn it and will be immortalized as one of the true giant killers in this game.
They'll be Nick Foles. I think we'll look at them as like Nick
Right.
Foles in that Eagles team of we stopped Brady from getting that Super Bowl.
Right. And that would have been a three-peat, right? I mean, that year would have been a repeat, but it would have ended up as a three-peat.
Yeah.
So the point is, and the Dodgers are going for baseball's first repeat in a quarter century. So, and it would be their third, although they had a fake one, but third in 6 years. And you start to think, what's to say they're not going to make more moves this offseason, right? I mean,
yeah.
And guys want to go there now. I mean, it's because now it's like, well, you're a guy that's played 6, 8, 12 years in the league. You've never won a ring. You've never been in the playoffs. It's a slam dunk. And you basically have a great chance to win a World Series. The other team may offer you, a couple $1 million more, but you go to LA, you'll make it up in endorsements and playoff shares and World Series jewelry. So
when does it become like a moral stance from these guys saying, we don't want to ruin the game of baseball and just make it where the Dodgers are just the greatest team and it's a pipeline. You're going to win a World Series. It's guaranteed. When does it mean less, I guess, if someone goes to LA? Because I don't even think it became that with LeBron when they went to the Heat, because the Heat, what was the Heat record in the finals? I think they were
2-2.
They won 2. They were 2-2.
Yeah.
So, I mean, people were talking about it then with the super team where it was like, oh, this is cheap if they win it with these guys. But they went 2-2. When does it become cheap with the Dodgers? When it becomes a three-peat? When that third ring comes? I think that's when it starts to become cheap. If you win it this year, like back-to-back is pretty damn good. But once it's 3 in a row, it's like, all right, had enough. It's good. Baseball has to step in. Rob Manfred has to step in. For all the other shit Rob Manfred is doing right now, he has to be looking at this and saying, this could be a problem. This could be a major problem in a very short amount of time.
Well, the irony is you hear a lot of Dodger fans complaining about the Astros cheating in 2017, and it's like the Dodgers right now, what they're doing is like legal cheating. You know what I mean? It's sort of like you haven't officially had that conversation with the girlfriend yet about being exclusive. So, in those last couple weeks, you just go out and have as much fun as you can, even though right? Like, even though you're
it's happening.
It's like Larry David, he borrows the handicap placard. You have it. I mean, you're not breaking the law by parking there, but you're not handicapped. So anyway, enough on the Dodgers.
Yeah. Let's go to the Diamondbacks. Are they the Dodger stoppers right now? Are they the number one candidate in the West at least?
I think they're going to be better than the Padres this year. And again, I was talking about the rotation earlier, and I completely spaced on the fact that they signed Corbin Burns earlier. I was talking about Gallen, Kelly, and I don't know why my brain kind of froze. I was thinking, like, is he back with the Brewers? Anyway, so that's a heck of a rotation. Forget that they wasted all that money on Jordan Montgomery. They need their bullpen. Their bullpen's going to be kind of interesting this year because their closer, they traded Paul Sewald, or they traded him, or he went to Cleveland. Justin Martinez had a fantastic year last year. A lot of guys stepped up in that bullpen last year that were kind of unheralded guys like Ryan Thompson and Ryan Nelson and Joe Mantiply and Bryce Jarvis. They got Kendall Graveman, who a few years ago, he was the closer. And what was it, Seattle or Houston at one point, or Oakland? I mean, he was on all these AL West teams. But anyway, AJ Puck, I mean, they got a pretty good roster. And oh, by the way, Ketel Marte, if not for Ohtani, probably would have been MVP last year. Eugenio Suarez was on an absolute tear late in the year. They like this Blaze Alexander, coolest name maybe in baseball. Yeah, Josh Naylor, Corbin Carroll bounced back this year. There's a lot of reasons to really like the Diamondbacks and think that they've got a shot to be in it. I still don't see how anyone could possibly win the division because it's just a foregone conclusion the Dodgers are going to hit at least 100, maybe 105, maybe 110, maybe break the Yankees or a Mariners record. Arizona will play them tough. I do believe that. I think if they're, we were talking about Atlanta, maybe Arizona actually could be that team. Maybe.
Kendall Graveman, Houston Astros in 21. Here's a little interesting note I just found. He was the final MLB pitcher to record an at-bat ever.
In a regular season game or postseason?
In any game. It was in the 2021 World Series.
Right. Right. Well, Greinke was the last one to get a hit. That was that game.
He was the last one to get hit. Okay,
Probably
but
so. It was game 5. Yeah.
yep, Game
I
5 of the
would not have
21 World
guessed.
Series.
I would not have guessed that. I guess Graveman came into that game kind of early then. I missed that. Well, I guess can't count Ohtani, but
Yeah.
well,
that
no.
doesn't
I
count.
mean, actually, last year Luis Castillo had an at bat for the Mariners. That's all that whole thing when a team stupidly puts its catcher as a DH and then the catcher gets hurt and then they got to take him out and then the pitcher goes into the lineup. But anyway, Graveman was also part of the Josh Donaldson trade from between the A's and the Jays back in 2015. But yes, to your point, Arizona absolutely going to be a thorn in the side, and I think they're the team that finishes second, not the Padres.
Yeah, and let's talk a little bit about the Padres. Let's make the case for them to finish over Arizona because I don't think they're finishing over the Dodgers.
I mean, it felt like last year they had so many things that just went right. You know what I mean? So many guys that stepped up. They had that almost like a 2021 Giants kind of feel. Remember we talked to Jay Jackson about it, kind of everything just like fairy dust. I mean, look, they're a good team. When you start talking about the Manny Machados and Fernando Tatises and Luis Arias of the world, they got, they still have a pretty good rotation, even missing out on Roki Sasaki. They're bringing Yu Darvish. They're bringing Michael King, who was fantastic last year. Dylan Cease, who I'm not a big Dylan Cease guy at all. I don't know what it is about him. They added Nick Pivetta. Their bullpen was really good. Robert Suarez. They had breakout stars last year like Jeremiah Estrada. Yeah, they picked up Brian Hoeing. I don't know. I just don't know. Is Jackson Merrill going to be Mr. Clutch? Is Tatis going to stay healthy? Is Xander Bogaerts? What are they going to get from him? Is Arias going to be the bat? Just felt like so many things went right. That team last year was as much vibes as it was talent, and so if they can get the vibes back, I'll put them ahead of Arizona. But I just don't know. A lot going on, and then that cloud of they were one game away. They had 2 cracks to win one game to knock out the Dodgers, and I think would have put them on the track to win the World Series last year. And then the feud with the ownership and the owner passing away last year. I don't know. I hope it's not karma. The Padres were always my national team growing up. Tony Gwynn was my favorite player. I was hurt for them on multiple levels because they lost. It had to be the Dodgers, but it was just it felt like that was the team that was supposed to do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. San Francisco. This feels like a complete lineup. This might be one of their better lineups since their 107 win season. Are they a wild card team this year? Because they ain't winning the division. They ain't winning the division. I'll take that.
Right. No one else is winning the division. They stay healthy. I mean, don't know about their lineup. I mean, I like Tyler Fitzgerald. I like the Adames edition. They got guys like Adames and Matt Chapman that hit for low average and hope they hit a lot of homers. Mike Yastrzemski. I'm curious what a healthy Jung Hoo Lee can give them. I'm more excited about the rotation, and that's not even talking about Justin Verlander. Can Logan Webb get back to being an ace? You know what I mean? Can Robbie Ray give them Cy Young Robbie Ray? What does Verlander have in the tank? What are they going to get from, Jordan Hicks this year?
The Giants season is not resting on Justin Verlander.
No.
I can't imagine because that is a very shaky bridge to build. If you're building a bridge, you're not building it on top of Justin Verlander.
Yeah, I think the Giants will be a little over 500. I don't know if they'll get a wild card. It'll kind of just depend on the rest of the league. I just don't see them being better than like an 83 win team. I don't have 2021 vibes from them. Then again, I wouldn't have had 2021 vibes in 2021 for them. So
and let's round out the National League with the saddest team in the National League, the Colorado Rockies. Beautiful stadium though. Clap it up for the stadium. They got a really good stadium over there. But not a lot of interesting things going on in Colorado. But give me something interesting from this team.
Is Chris Bryant going to play at all this year?
I think so. Let's see.
What I really like Ezekiel Tovar. And Brenton Doyle's a heck of a center fielder. Now, he's really an exciting outfielder. There was an article here from back in January. It was like it had a question of one realistic free agent target who would still be a perfect fit. Roki Sasaki. Like Roki was going to be a Rocky. I don't think so.
No,
Uh,
no,
you know,
no.
there's not. I don't know. I just I can't even say anything nice about them. I mean, if I just hope that Chris Bryant gives them one good year for that contract. I hope they get great production again from Tovar, and I hope Brenton Doyle makes a lot of diving catches in center field. That's all I can say. How does a
Maybe
team from a
like
city like Denver have a tight budget? Monfort, horrible owner, horrible owner.
yeah. I mean, you have the Broncos and the Denver Nuggets there too. I just don't get it.
And the
Like
Avalanche won a championship 3 years ago. So
the Avalanche. Like these are like you see cities like Boston
yeah,
where one team succeeding elevates every other team to succeed. You
yeah.
don't
Tell
see it
that
in
to the
Denver.
76ers. But yeah,
Well, that's true. I mean, listen, I guess there's got to be one, right? I mean, the Bruins were kind of that one in Boston for a while. They only won in 2011, but well, I say only like a championship is just
yeah. Well, they're the
yeah,
only
only
team that
one.
has singular this century, right? The only Boston team. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I just it's a shame, like you said, great stadium, big sports city. I mean, we're not. It's not like this isn't like San Antonio or Charlotte. I mean, this is Denver. It's the capital of Colorado. It's a city with, like you said, proud franchises that are generally pretty good. Nuggets and Avalanche both won titles within the last, what, 4 years? Yeah. Nuggets 23, Avalanche 22, Broncos within the last decade, 2015. I mean, it's
15.
embarrassing. Rockies are absolutely embarrassing. And now just really drives the point home even more being in the NL West. I think just being in the same division with the Dodgers is almost just fitting.
When was the last time they were competent? Like at least there was a
2018.
was it 18? There was a thought that they would like they would make some sort of noise because it's just been completely quiet. It's crickets over there. It is the complete opposite to the Los Angeles Dodgers. Can can you imagine being on the Rockies and looking at the Dodgers in your same division saying we have I mean we're playing the same game as these guys, but they're not. The Dodgers and the Rockies are not playing the same game whatsoever in my opinion. They're playing two completely different sports, and the Rockies are losing at whatever sport that they're playing.
Right. Yeah, I was just thinking, is there anybody like who's the Rockies ace? He wouldn't make the Dodgers rotation. Is it Freeland or Herman Marquez or Senzatella? Would there who's the Rockies' best player? I mean, you're not going to even say Chris Bryant. Maybe it's Ezekiel Tovar at this point. Would he start at short for the Dodgers over Miguel Rojas? Maybe. I mean, that's when you break it down. That's when you look at it and you say, "My God, this is problematic." When
Yeah.
the singular best player on one team may not even. I mean, maybe one or two guys from the Rockies would make the Dodgers roster.
I mean, I just don't get it. Why Major League Baseball is just seems to be against a cap or a floor. I mean, I think you have to have a salary floor. First off, there is minimum wage for a reason, right? In this country, you have to have some sort of salary floor to say this is as much as it takes to field a competent baseball team. Because not every team is going to be good. That's just how sports are. There are 30 baseball teams, just like in the NFL, there's 32 football teams. There has to be a last place team, just like there has to be a first place team. But even the last place teams, I mean, the Tennessee Titans, like they were not good this year. But it is not as, I don't think it's as big of a disparity between the number one and the number 30 team in base, or, 32 in the NFL compared to 1 and 30. I mean, yeah, how many players on this Rockies team would even make the Dodgers? If you put them out at Dodger camp, you put them all together, how many of them would make the Dodgers? I feel like it would be really close to zero.
Yeah, like I said, I think maybe Tovar would be the one guy, but it's
Yeah. Um,
yeah.
all right. Well, that's a good place to wrap up, I think. We've been going about 45 minutes, hour actually. That was a good little preview. I think we're gonna do some predictions next week. We're gonna do just full, division. We'll go through the playoffs, and yeah, well, we will be back next week. I can promise you that. We will not skip next week like we did this past week. Baseball is coming. Am I crazy? Is opening day next week?
It's Thursday.
Thursday? It is Oh, it's this Thursday. Let me tell you, man, my schedule has been completely fucked up. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Our content will be ramping up as baseball comes back. I moved, so I'm just getting kind of caught up with everything. But again, make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Go check out Spring Hill Sports. Go check out Draft America. Go check out our social media on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, all the other stuff. We will see you